Gratitude has the ability and the capability to completely transform and shift your mindset because you cannot be grateful and ungrateful at the same time. The police showed up at the door and seeing my mom kind of collapse in the corner was the turning point of our lives. I remember Barbara Corcoran saying to me, Tiffany, you have to immediately remove the minute you spot a negative energy in your organization because it becomes a cancer. It wasn't enough to have just a lemonade stand every day when she left for work. I started going around the house and collecting saleable items, including going through her closet, suits and things that she would wear for work that I didn't care for. You can get out of bed and you can open the curtains and say, good morning, God, or go, good God, it's morning. It doesn't matter if you're the richest person in the world or not. How are you leaving an impression with whatever you're doing at the time?
Now let's dive into today's guest, a powerhouse in real estate, an innovator, a community builder, and someone who truly lives by the philosophy of embracing every opportunity and challenge with grace and grit. Tiffany McQuaid is the founder, president, and broker of McQuaid & Company, a multi-million-dollar award-winning real estate brokerage in Naples, Florida. She's a marketing strategist, a serial entrepreneur, and a true force in her industry, recently partnering with Ryan Serhant to launch Serhant Southwest Florida. She's the author of The INth Degree, How to Stand Out by Going All In, and is known for her unwavering optimism, creative approach to challenges, and deep commitment to the community. I absolutely loved reading Tiffany's book, The INth Degree. I found it not only positive and uplifting, but also incredibly inspiring, and I could feel her positive energy in her voice. It felt like she was cheering me on through the pages. I really think you're going to enjoy today's episode. This is so fun in here. It just sucks. The whole building, every inch of it is like a new discovery. I feel like I'm on like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory or something.
That is so funny that you say that because that's what I've always said that I felt like people did not know what was going on behind our doors, and then they come in and we show them around. And I always said I felt like the Willy Wonka of real estate.
That's so great because that's the exact experience I had. Every room was an adventure to me. Every room was something new and cool and something for me to play with. I feel like a kid again. There's something to touch. Yeah. That's what Brenda said to me. I said, Brenda, have you ever been over there? When I went back this morning, and she said, yeah. She said they have skee ball there. This was the first thing she said.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's so many fun things. I mean, it's really
we definitely, and there's a method to the madness. And if you want to ask me that question, I'll explain it because it's actually really good. I learned all of this from Facebook headquarters in California.
You went there?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I spent a whole day there.
Really?
Yeah, I was there for a business meeting and kind of got the full-on behind-the-scenes tour, and they explained, I learned so much. And on the flight back from California, that's what I did. I resketched the entire office and came back and changed everything.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
So you were there for what reason? Why were you at?
I was there actually for a business meeting. It was a CEO meeting for the industry. And they were speaking to us from an industry perspective.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, they hosted it.
Yeah. Okay. Just different things, and they were kind of picking brains about different things. And I was blessed enough to be in that room, and get invited to do that. So there was maybe 25 of us, maybe, and then went around the whole campus, and I kind of thought in my mind that the campus felt like Bayfront to me, very similar, lots of multicolored buildings. And there was, brick walkways, and there was, everything from a barber shop. They could go get their hair done free.
Really?
A dentist on site, free dental work. There was an arcade and 4 different restaurants and a diner. And, you'd see them riding by on branded bikes. They would do, bike to ride around on their brakes. And, it felt to me like Bayfront.
Yeah.
And so I came back and just kind of redid everything.
Wow, it's beautiful what you've done.
Thank
and
you.
Also, you don't have the budget that Facebook has. Facebook can throw money at everything and make whatever they want. But for you to be able to do that here in our town. It's pretty cool. It seems like, like you're going to an office. I don't feel like I'm in an office. Like, I mean, going to work, it wouldn't feel like that at all. Here.
Well, I think the intent was that we create something remarkable, because in any industry, whether it's real estate or, a salon, there's always opportunity to do something different and unique and go that extra mile and create an expectation that's not what they would have expected.
Yeah.
And so when you're in a dynamic where, especially, here you go down Fifth Avenue and you go in real estate office after real estate office after real estate office and see what you get. When you walk in those doors, what hits you? What is it? A standout situation? Are you being greeted a certain way? Is there, something that creates an instant elevation lift in your mind that makes that spot or that location or the person that you've just walked in to meet with memorable? That you're going to think about, oh, should I use them again? Or that they're top of mind when you're ready to use them again.
Right.
And anybody can do status quo.
Yeah.
That's not what's going to make you stand out.
Right.
It's about that over and above. It's about pushing yourself, filling voids, because again, every industry has voids and we all have the opportunity to fill those, but we get so stuck in the day-to-day and just meeting the average expectations. Who wants to be average?
Yeah.
I mean, many people, it's a fine thing to wake up every day and just live in normalcy. We can all do that. But boy, is there something pretty amazing when you push yourself to be remarkable.
Yeah, I think that's something about you that there's a natural inspiration about you when you're pushing the envelope. You just hearing you talk about pushing the envelope and being different, like how exciting it is when you do that, when you do commit to being different, to not being just status quo, to not being the same thing. I remember when First National Bank in Naples, I went there. Gary Tice did a couple of banks in Naples, and he always was trying to be different in the banking industry. And they did a version of their bank, which was the last one, which has been sold. But when I first went in, they got rid of all the big countertops that separated people from the bank part of it, from the teller, where it was like this cage, and you were walking up to this altar and begging. They changed it to this open space where you walked. They had these little kiosks that the teller worked at, and you were right there with them in front of the computer. And then they had a coffee bar and a food bar, and it just felt like I was at a Starbucks the first time I'd gone there, and I was like, wow, this is so different. And they emphasize service, and they emphasize things that were different for banking that was very I wasn't used to, but it definitely caught my attention, and it was where I banked until we still bank there even when they were bought, but it was something that, because banks to me are vanilla, they're all the same. There's not much difference in a lot of banks, and what's going to separate them from the others. And I can clearly see, especially after, reading your book, which I thought was phenomenal. And anyone who hasn't read it, it's very inspirational. And I just absolutely loved it. It was really good for my soul. It affirmed a lot of things in my life that I might have had doubts about. It would help me through. And, I many things I loved about it. So you definitely are on the forefront of the cutting edge in what you do. And being in here, I've seen the way you light up the salon when you come in the salon, and how you are in there, and the path the wake that you leave of joy and happiness. It's a cool thing. You got a good thing in your spirit that's helpful for humanity. I love that.
Thank you. That means so much to me.
There's a lot of things that I bubbling over with so much that I wanted to talk to you about, because in the book you hit on so many things that were close to my heart. And one of the things, the song and I listened to it this morning, Babe by Styx.
Yeah.
That the story behind that.
Yeah.
Are you okay talking about that?
Yes, we can talk about it. Doesn't mean that I'm not gonna, I'll try. That just threw me, you saying that. So, but it's good. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I think, maybe this conversation, maybe there's somebody that's going to need to hear this today.
Yeah.
Or the day that they hear it.
Yeah. What's the story behind it?
So the story behind it was, kind of picture it, circa 1980. Think about that time, it was so much simpler, right? And it was also a time where technology did not reign. It was a little too much technology in one device when you had a digital clock radio. Remember, only one would work at a time. It was just a little too much back then. But, at that time, I was 10. My sister was 5. And my parents had just gone through a divorce. And it was November 1980 when they divorced. And my father, he really had a difficult time with it. Well, they both did. But, back then, people don't talk about or did not speak of mental health issues or challenges or struggles. And my dad, brilliant man. He was a chemist at Firestone, Akron, Ohio, big tire and rubber town. And he was a chemist, just so brilliant, but always made people laugh, always made people smile. And I think sometimes we can go through life and think that the strong ones or the ones that do have smiles and do come across as positive at times, we tend to forget those people and forget that there's hurts inside of them. And, he was a great example of that. And on Christmas Day, 1980, he decided to, with, cyanide from his, the lab, decided to take his life. And, at the time, it was a very strange thing. We never talked about it, after it happened. But I will tell you, even that day, my sister and I, we get up, we open our presents, you're all excited. Again, I'm 10, she's 5. That's the holy grail of holidays,
of course.
Is Christmas. So you get up, we open our presents, and tried to call our dad, and he didn't answer, but it was so early. Didn't think anything about it. Went about the day, just enjoy. In total joy. So think about that. You open those presents, you're all excited and you're playing with them and you're in the ultimate level of joy. And then it was probably around noonish, we were at my great aunt's house for Christmas dinner. We had just gone over, back then you had dinner early on holidays. And the police showed up at the door. And that knock on the door and seeing my mom kind of collapse in the corner was the turning point of our lives. And, at that time, being in a position where someone was electing to do that, and, we were a big Catholic family. And, it was, there was a perception at that point that, we were kind of distanced out of the family. It was just, he was not spoken of from that point forward because people did not know how to handle that and deal with the stigma that came along with a suicide. Even today, it's a very difficult thing for people to absorb and deal with. I feel like it's out there more. There's more help. There's more ability and capability to get channels out there for help and for encouragement and support. But we're also in a world of social media where, people can tear people down so much. And, you post something and sometimes you got a 50-50 split of people who are going to love it and people who are going to hate it. If you have an opinion out there, don't even talk politics. But if you have an opinion, people are going to judge you. They're going to judge your photos, and there's more access to that. And with that, the younger generation is coming up now, in a different world. We're now seeing the lowest, more rates of people, suicide rates at a younger age than ever before. So, when I think about circa 1980 and what we went through, and he was just like never spoken of again, we're in a world now where we have the ability and the capability to turn people's days around. We don't have to be like that. We don't have to comment hateful things behind a screen and a keyboard to someone who has the right to voice their opinion or their thought. You have an opportunity to just scroll on by. Or if you see someone that's just not treating you well, or, you're not being served in the way that you would desire at a restaurant, you have a way to turn that person's day around, What if you greeted people with a large smile, just for the sake of it? By doing that, even if you're not having a great day, you're elevating your day. I could be having the worst day ever, but I'll tell you, if I see someone and I genuinely know in my heart that they're a good person and they've always been there for me, and I'm encountering them when I walk in the door, which is the case with everyone here in my organization, I can't help but smile. And I could have the weight of the world on my shoulders, but the minute I see them and I've trained myself to react with a smile, it elevates my day. So imagine what it's doing to theirs. And if they're having a rough day, and now you're heightening the reaction, just think about that. I've gotten into a habit where I feel like, after my dad's dynamic happened, and there's so much that I could talk about that I've learned, through that case scenario and what I've kind of taught and mentally trained myself for over the years. It's kind of been like a mental Olympics for me of how to overcome and just overcome. We all have tough days, so I could probably go on all day, but I do feel like I was given a gift, and that gift is to use this big mouthful of teeth to do that, to help bring a heightened energy and use that smile genuinely and authentically, because you never know who's on the other end. If that person on that day, or maybe the day before, they were saying, I can't do it anymore. I can't go another day. I can't handle one more attack. I can't handle the weight that's on my shoulders, or the expectations that I have, or what's going on in the world is just too much for me right now. They could have had that day. And your very greeting, whether it's in line at Starbucks or Dunkin', or walking into the salon, or walking into a random store or random real estate office, it's that engagement. You could be sitting in a restaurant. I've witnessed this myself. I've seen people in restaurants, or waiting in line for something, and they're just angry at the world. They're, mental, excuse me, their mental situation is that of negative energy. And although you can't change, those people that kind of rest in that, we do have a choice every day. We have a choice to get up every day and say, am I going to be positive today? And approach whatever comes at me with a positive response, or am I going to be negative today and just rest in it and carry that through? We have a choice. We have a choice. And I've seen people in those dynamics react to maybe those on the other side of the counter, or those bringing, your food and they complain or what have you. But here's what I've watched. If you have someone that's maybe responding to you negatively, let's say you're at a restaurant and you're ordering breakfast and maybe it hasn't gone so well, or maybe somebody's reacting not so kindly. If you turn that around and instead of, oh, maybe I'm not going to tip them as much today, but instead you over tip, you over ingratiate that situation, they cannot move forward in a stance. Their mental capacity completely shifts. They cannot not. You can watch it. You can see it all unfold. Those are typically the people that maybe need that positive energy a little more than others.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we can complain and, look at it as, oh, that was a horrible experience, and go on and rate it 0 stars, because our the person serving us or assisting us and doing their job on that day was, maybe having a rough day. There's a lot of rough days out there right now.
Yeah.
But we have an opportunity to change that, and really put a different mark on the world to the best of your ability or capability.
What do you do to get yourself to that place? I wake up so naturally cynical. I look at my sleep score. Oh, I didn't get enough. Bad night.
Yeah.
It's June in Naples, and it's a struggle in the summer. And, there's just, it's hurricane season, and there's bad news. There's a war, and just the mental cynicism that I wake up with is so pervasive. How do you get yourself in that mindset?
Yeah.
What do you
That's
do?
a fantastic question, because that cynicism is unilateral and so many people right now. And, we're all there. We all have it, but it's so easy to flip that switch. But you do have to train yourself. I mean, understand, I've been working on it. It's a job.
Yeah. Right?
It is a job, but I work very, very hard at it. But here's the dynamic. And I remember years ago, somebody had said to me, Tiffany, you have one way that you can approach a day. You can get out of bed and you can open the curtains and you can look out and say, "Good morning, God." Or you can get out of bed, open that curtain and go, "Good God, it's morning." Think about that. Yeah. So when we're getting up in the morning, the best thing that I can say is you have to immediately remove the distraction. And the biggest issue that I see today that I think everyone does, I don't do it anymore, but they immediately look at their phones or look at their watch, whatever. They're approaching the day from exactly that perspective. You have to get up in the morning and you have to be thankful. Number one, that you got up. Thank you for this day. Thank you for everything that I'm about to absorb today. Good and bad, because they're both gifts. You learn from the bad. We don't learn as much from the good. Think about it. So just start your day with gratitude, and then, make your coffee. Make your coffee. Sit down, relax, take some time to focus on your mental state. Read something that's inspiring. Listen to something that's inspiring, or just sit in the quiet. Give yourself 10 or 15 minutes to just be you. Don't look at anything. Don't read anything. Don't look at the news. Nothing's going to change because you looked at it.
Yeah.
The world's not going to change just because, you looked at your email or felt you needed to respond right away. You owe yourself a fresh start to the day that is one of peace and focused and centered on you. And when you calibrate yourself in the morning, I promise you this. When you calibrate yourself in the morning, maybe you take some time to go for a walk, jump in the pool, jump on the treadmill, do whatever you need to do. Take your quiet time, set your mental capacity, and then you do something to move. Go just stand in the grass barefoot for 5 minutes. I guarantee you that all of that grounding energy and taking that 30 minutes combined, or an hour, whatever you can give yourself, you will walk into your day an entirely different human being. I promise you that. Because we're in a world of distraction and reaction. That's all we're doing. Everyone's contacting us via phone, text, email. We're reacting to everything. We're seeing it on TV. We're seeing it on our computers. People, they're demanding instant response, instant reaction, instant. We're living in just this world of stress. But we're creating it ourselves. So imagine you flip that switch now and you say to yourself, okay, self, I'm going to get up tomorrow morning and I'm going to take control of my day. I'm not going to let my day take control of me. I'm going to get up. I'm going to focus in first thing on gratitude. Gratitude will change the course of your life. I can assure you that. And it's as simple as, thank you for allowing me to get up today. There's days that I focus on different gratitude things. Like some days, and this may sound crazy, I'll focus on, my body, thank you for my healthy body and the ability to, that my feet are still able to keep me planted and move. And, my ankles and my calves and my knees are healthy. And, my legs, I can still do everything that I need to do. And, my hips are good. I can still stretch. And, you just I've got a mind that's sharp and, gives me ideas that make me stand out. And the fact that you give me the words to be able to speak and convey a message that may be able to help others. And, hair that swells in the humidity at this time of year. I love this time of year. And the ability to, have a little downtime this time of year. We're, as you mentioned, we're in an area that is so snowbird driven, and we can have good seasons, bad seasons. But remember, there's always opportunity in every down market. You were brilliant last year. You created an opportunity, and I see you're doing it again, in that in a down market or in a down time, you created those princess makeovers. Brilliant. Because you're creating a feel-good dynamic where these little girls can come in and get some little tinsel in their hair and become, Taylor Swift for a day and do something that they don't normally get to do. And their mom gets to witness it or maybe participate if they're, too. But what's happened now? You've elevated an experience that's created a positive memory. You've skipped every step of advertising and marketing and running ads and all that stuff. You've now created an experience that creates top of mind awareness that now they're never going to forget. And who are they going to call now when, when they want to get their hair done or something starts to happen? It's not going to happen with everyone, but it's going to happen more times than not. And now you've created something that's embedded in their head as opposed to just an ad that they may or may not see, scrolling through social media or what have you. You filled a void and you did something that others have not done. So it's those types of things that in down markets create opportunity. And sometimes it can benefit financially in that moment, but sometimes it's a long game. But either way, you built and created a foundation based off of an experience that others did not. That's why we did all these events here at Bayfront. Back when, and I'm sure that they'll come back here at some point, but that's how I built my business, was doing these events here at Bayfront, from Rockin' on the Bay, that may have gotten us in a little bit of trouble, but it was a good end game. You know, the end game was just to bring joy to the town, share music, get everyone together. But the goal was to get people here on a regular basis to see the Robert of Philadelphia sign and, our real estate sign and the restaurant signs, so that it creates, based off of an experience, top of mind.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go to breakfast at EJ's. Oh, I need a haircut. I didn't even know Robert of Philadelphia was there. That was the whole purpose of that, and the end result was bringing joy and an experience that people could talk about that was remarkable and different and unique. So whether it was Taste of Collier or Rockin' on the Bay or the Stone Crab Festival, or we also did Rockin' the Point at Coconut Point. We were rocking on the river in Bonita. We've been we did some country club concerts, rocking on the range, Quail Creek Country Club and other places. So, it's about creating experiences that help brand and create brand awareness. I could never have created my real estate brokerage if I did not do those events. So it was sweat equity. It was using experience, creating, using our experience in event management from my past life, but using that to catapult into experience and relationship marketing that creates retention.
Well, that's what I got just walking into this space was the experience of being a kid almost. That's what I felt like. I just wanted to grab the balls and I wanted to play the games. I wanted to eat the candy. I wanted to have fun. The ice cream. There's an ice cream freezer here that's loaded with incredible ice cream. Yeah, just it evokes an emotion, just like music does. It evokes an emotional. Joy to the World is one of your songs. That the Three Dog Night song you talked about in the book too, which is another song that when you hear music, it pulls out that emotion. You mentioned a couple of things. It was in your book and just now. You talked about listening to something that's going to be uplifting, which your book was for me. It filled that. When my mind is not being fed with something positive or enlightening, it naturally is drawn to what doesn't work, what's negative, what's wrong, what's bad, what's, it's just where it goes. It goes to the cynicism, the awfulization of everything. And your book was really good for me. And I remember my father listening to Zig Ziglar tapes.
That is so funny. Didn't I talk about that?
You did.
I was just going to say, wait, did I put that in the book?
Did,
that is so funny.
They were tapes of tapes. He had recorded tapes. He didn't even have the originals on this terrible cassette player. And he loudly listened to them in the morning in the bedroom. And I can hear him throughout the house because we lived in a small house in Vanderbilt Beach. And, I would hear Zig Ziglar every morning. Help enough other people get what they want, and you will always get what you want. You had to do that. You always listen to that. But it was, that's I find that for myself that, when I do that, or the other side of it is, like you said, when you wake up. My wife and I just got back from Grand Cayman, and we don't do roaming on our cell phones, so we don't have access to texting or anything, which is, I love that part of it. I've also gotten in the habit of turning notifications off on my phone because I have notifications for everything. There's so many ways people can contact us now. And most of the communications are not urgent, but people expect them to be now. But we didn't have them turned on, and we didn't know, because we weren't checking the news and everything, that there's a war. But had we known anyway, what could we have done anyway? What difference would it have made? It didn't make no difference at all anyway. There's nothing we could do except worry or get more upset or whatever there is. So those practices, I can see how they really make a difference when you put them into place. And my father-in-law used to say, every day. Today is the best day of my life. Every morning, that's how he started his day. Like always, and it was who I always experienced him as. Was this just, he was so grateful. Like you said, you talk about gratitude. For every single moment that he had.
Gratitude has the ability and the capability to completely transform and shift your mindset. It is absolutely the truth, because you cannot be grateful and ungrateful at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't. So if you are constantly leaning into gratitude, there's mornings where on my entire drive to the office, that's all I'm focused in on, is I'm so grateful for the opportunities before me, and the fact that I'm hitting all the green traffic lights today, and which I did today. That I got a great parking spot today. That the sun's out, and that we live in this place where the sky is blue, and in the summer we get to and fro so easy, and we get that little bit of reprieve, and every afternoon we get a little bit of rain that just like calms my nervous system and makes me like want to nest for a little bit. For me, one of the hazards of growing up in Ohio, and I say all the time, it's a great place to be from, is that our sunny days, your whole life, you go your whole life this way. We're so few and far between that when they happened, that you had this inner within you that you had to go and do. And when that's ingrained in you your whole life, you move down here and it's very hard to get out of that. So, and every day is nice here.
Yeah.
So you never really mentally have these down days that you feel like, even if you're sick, like I just want to be sick at home and I let it be gray outside so I don't feel guilty that I just want to lay on the couch for the day and watch movies. It's this inner guilt within me that I struggle to exist with still after all these years, and I think that's the mentality even that we see when the snowbirds come down. They come down because they want that sun. And these people are going all day, every day when they're down here, right? They don't get a break, nor do we. So we go nonstop. So to me, this time of year, I feel like is God's gift to us. We get a little bit of a break. We get a little bit of downtime without guilt. That we can just settle in on ourselves and, just do what we need to do to reignite and recharge to get ready for the next season. And our seasons are getting longer down here.
Right.
We're seeing it obviously even in real estate. We have, I signify it as preseason is October 1 through the end of the year. Season is October 1 through the end of Easter month, whenever Easter may fall. And then to me, post-season is beginning of the month after Easter through the end of June. So we have like a few months there that are kind of what I call our reprieve months, and recharge, re-energize, refuel, get ready. Get ready. And because then, come October, it's not just them kind of starting to come back, but we've got holiday season and we don't get a break from holiday season before our season hits. So to me, taking full advantage of those few months of reprieve are our gift. And maybe, financially they hit us a little more too, because business is not as heavy, but again, there's always opportunity in every down market. So if you just kind of find a way to fill a void, there's always ways. There's always ways.
Yeah. So. Well, even when you have no idea what that could be, like you talked about in your book during COVID times, which you,
that was brutal.
Oh, wasn't it? Yeah. I know it was brutal for us going through it. We were in Grand Cayman. I didn't realize this. They were closed for 20 months. Wow. A lot of the places that we had gone to there, when we were last there in 2019, were gone because they couldn't survive through 20 months. So many businesses were gone, and I remember, but even for us here, the 56 days that we were closed, I vividly remember DeSantis coming on May 8th saying salons can open back up on Monday.
Yeah.
What a blessing that was, just how lucky it was. But you had to adapt and be different, and you did things that were very innovative, that made a difference. You made use of that time in a special way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were some of the things that you did?
Well, so my brain functions very creatively, but I'm not one of those that can be creative all the time. I'm like on a 50-50 split, left brain, right brain. So when I'm in creative mode, and everyone here kind of knows it, it's like, to me, it's a gift. Well, it can be a blessing and a curse at times, but for them, it can be a curse at times, because when I'm in creative mode, I spew things out like a ticker tape, but I'm a one-hit wonder. So when I create things and I spew it out, if nobody writes it down, it's gone. Like I can't, it's hard for me to read. So if I come up with a slogan or a tagline or an idea or whatever, if we don't write it down at the moment of impact, it's gone. Just wiped from my brain. But then when I'm in business mode, I'm more logical and looking at things differently. So during COVID time, it gave me such a freedom to be able to create. But I really set my mind up for that, and what I did, I got up every morning, although I think we weren't supposed to, but I did it. I got up every morning, jumped in my car every single morning, and I drove out to Ave Maria. And it was a really strange situation for me. I would make a coffee and I would drive out with my warm coffee in hand, listening to, some motivational, inspirational book to just keep my mindset, audiobook, to keep my mindset right. And then I would get out there and I would walk the loop around the water. And although they had the church locked, at that time, I would spend time on this special bench that I had that kind of overlooked the water toward the church. And I did this every day. And I would walk and get my body moving and, do 3 miles, pretty much 2-3 miles a day. And then I would just spend 10-15 minutes on that bench, just surrendering, and realizing that, hey, I can't control this. But just, I can't stress about it either. And I would just release whatever was in my head for that day. And it was just like a giant exhale for me. And then I would go home and, we were all still working from home. So we would do our meetings and stuff. And, we were just at our most creative at that time, because I think that downtime just gave us opportunity to do that. So we started filling voids. We created. We took, probably the biggest one that I'm most proud of is, we still had a duty and a responsibility to our sellers who had entrusted us, with their listings and their, biggest life investment for the most part. And so what we did, it immediately, I got this vision of every Sunday in Ohio. My mom and I would get up, and there was this little channel in Akron that would run a real estate show. And all it was this just monotone kind of voice, a female voice talking over these properties. And they would just scroll.
Yeah.
Property after property for like an hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever it would be. And we would just sit there and watch all these properties. And I immediately channeled that thinking, wait a second, why don't we do this? So I started going through all of our inventory, and on my phone, on my voice memo, I went through and created, this whole welcome to our McQuaid & Company open house. Please come on in and enjoy. And then I started every property that way. I would just pull little clips of the MLS description out. I would send each voice memo to Adam, my head of creative, and he would then embed the photos. We turned them into 60-second spots and started pummeling them out as commercials all over television. And I mean, it was something that nobody had ever seen before, you know, who does that, who did that? I mean, we were running them like crazy. And it just turned out to be one of the biggest blessings. We did so many different things. We started mailing out instead of about properties, because most of my agents were farming certain communities, including myself. We started mailing out games, for that area, like it was around to Easter. So we mailed out these big postcards that had a bunny hunt, and on the back, kind of this giant bunny that they could cut out and put in their window. And we made it a game for people to go around and count the bunnies in the window in their community. So it got families out, everybody of all ages. And then we had them text us the number that they found, and we would drop at their door, little gifts and what have you. And then every week, we told them every week to go out and move the bunnies to different windows so that it was a whole new game each week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and just crazy things like that.
Yeah.
And, that turned into so much business when we came out of COVID because we were creating experiences, and with the TV commercials, it was just such a difference watching. There were more captive eyes on television than ever during COVID, right?
Of course. Yeah, there was. Yeah.
So they were so used to seeing regular commercials. And then all of a sudden it transitioned into welcome to our McQuaid and Company. It was like, wait a second, what is this? And we rotated all of our properties through, these spots. And, so just creating unique, different experiences, much like I said, like you did, it's those types of things that create memorable experiences. So, and they think of you for business.
Yeah. Which is so much of what life is about, is our experiences versus, so many other things. There's a guy doing this seminar, and he was talking about, I think he's geared towards entrepreneurs. I just happened to read it last night, and he was saying so many entrepreneurs, and I'm guilty of it too, get their joy, or they think it's joy, but it's really not, but get their satisfaction from the victories or the wins or the numbers.
Yes.
Did they hit their goal?
Yeah.
Are they successful? Are they meeting that? And they sacrifice so much for that that they don't ever truly experience joy.
Yeah.
Which is the experiences that we have in our lives.
Yeah.
What the actual experiences are. So, we were talking before we got on camera this morning about our own mortality and the number of weeks you mentioned in the book. Average person that lives for 4,000 weeks, I think is what it was, right?
Yeah.
And it made me do the math on mine and think that, I've lived for 3,200 already, and I've got, if I'm blessed or lucky, I got that many left. We never really know, but and hearing your shift in your own life got me thinking too, because you were shifting gears with the business in terms of how you have recently taken on the partnership with Ryan Serhant,
right.
and how that has it's a rebranding, and it's a major shift.
Yes.
For you.
Yes. Well, and speaking of joy, and I'll tell you how that turned into where I'm at right now is, I don't think people quite understand or equate. You're absolutely right. They look at the wins or the victories as being the high, when in fact that's just the pinnacle. You're hitting as on the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And life journey for everyone. You have goals and desires and levels that you go through to get to the pinnacle, whatever that pinnacle point would be. And some levels are harder than others, but with each level, you're gaining strength and you're pushing through it to get to the next level, and you can only get to that pinnacle when you go through those levels. And you're absolutely right. A lot of people equate joy to the accomplishment of the level. Okay, I got there, all right, I did this, I accomplished that goal. Now I can exhale and feel joy. No, you're not at your pinnacle. So that joy is momentary. It doesn't last.
Right,
The
right.
joy has to come from within, so that you can enjoy the journey, good or bad. And what I think people forget, and I think is probably the pinnacle and what ultimately resulted in my alliance, my merger with Ryan Serhant, is that joy and enthusiasm go hand in hand. And I think what people forget is it's enthusiasm. It's enthusiastic energy that makes you stand out. It's enthusiastic energy that helps you push through the challenges and the obstacles that life throws at us. It's the enthusiastic energy that takes you to greatness, that up-levels you. Because when you think about, if you're wanting to just have a good day, I think of our agents on floor, that come in and sit at our front desk and prepare to greet people that walk in the door, much like you at the salon too. And, you have people that are in that role too. What a difference when you're walking in and you're approaching the day with enthusiastic energy. You're authentically excited to see somebody walk in, and you're greeting them with that energy. I can assure you, because we did the research, you go into all these businesses, doesn't matter where you're at in the world, just go walk down a main street and walk in business after business. How are you greeted? How are you greeted? If the majority of all those businesses are going to be lacking in that enthusiastic energy. They may look up from their, whatever they're doing. They may haphazardly, give you acknowledgement. People are on their phones. They're distracted.
Yeah.
It's that enthusiastic energy that sets the stage for anything and everything.
Yeah.
And joy and enthusiasm go hand in hand. So if you're focusing in on, and really that goes back to how you approach the day. If you're focusing in on today, just today, not tomorrow, not going to worry about what happened yesterday, but just today, I'm going to make my goal about gratitude and what's going to bring me joy for the day. I may have the world coming at me on this day, but if I can find little specks, and if on that certain day, that's all you can find, little speckles of joy, that's going to uplift you in ways that you could never even imagine. And really, that's all we need to seek. We need to seek joy every day. And then surround it with gratitude. That's all you need to completely transform everything that goes on, both within and without. That is what will transform your life, because what happens with that then, that's enthusiasm. And that enthusiastic energy is what people feel. That's what exudes. And that's as you mentioned, when you walk into a dynamic with that enthusiastic energy, that's what leaves the mark. That's what makes the difference. And honestly, that's part of the reason why I've been blessed to be in this dynamic, to even have the opportunity to have not only met and worked with for almost 5 years now, Ryan Serhant, to now have merged our companies. It's somehow we stood out, that enthusiastic energy, and you connect with people like that. We're like kind, him and I in many ways. And that's where the connection came in. You attract those that are similar to you. That's how I've had Barbara Corcoran as I call her, my fairy godmother for over 20 years, in my life, involved in my business. It's, how did that happen? But it's when you attract like kind energy. What energy are you putting out today? Not just you, but anyone listening. What energy are you putting out? Because we're not chasing people, or, well, I mean, many people are, but the holy grail is to attract people who are similar to you. I feel like I have a whole organization full of them. We've gone through a lot of negative people over the years, that once their energy is removed from a dynamic, the whole
What a
group
difference
lifts.
it makes. Yes, yes.
The team lifts. You know, I
Yes,
remember Barbara Corcoran saying to me, Tiffany, you have to immediately remove, the minute you spot it, a negative energy in your organization, because it becomes a cancer and it brings everyone down. And that equates to energy and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be positive all the time,
Right.
but on the days that you're not, to have that enthusiastic energy around you to help uplift you.
Yes.
And there's many days where I have to uplift, you know, several around me,
Yes.
you know, but we're all in that wavelength and we're all on that path that the goal is that we want to be in that space and we want to be there together.
Yeah.
And when you eliminate those negative few, it's so powerful and so impactful, and you don't even realize it in the moment.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that, because it's regardless of their skills, regardless of how great they are technically, their skill set, their performance, their results, any of that.
Yeah.
If the attitude is not there, it destroys the fabric of it. Yeah.
You can't teach that because that's inbred. You know, there's something within them that they have to change. You can always teach skills. I don't even look at resumes. I'm not a big resume person.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
I'm about energy.
Yeah.
I read energy. You know, are they going to be a fit in terms of the ability for us to help up level them, you know? And sometimes there's people that you can do to a certain extent, and then they hit a level or a lull that they just can't go with you any further. And those are okay too.
Yeah.
Let them fall off or let them go.
Yeah.
Whatever it would be, you can't have that hold you down. And I've learned some hard lessons, you know, in that over the course of this journey, very hard lessons, but I needed to learn them to understand when I see it very clearly moving forward, you know, that, been down this road. Okay. Lesson learned. Let's, you know, make some tough decisions at times. But you have to do it because your organization cannot grow without it. Can't.
Right.
It just can't. You know, Barb always talks about every organization needs an expander and a container. Meaning someone that has the visionary ability and capability to see, you know, big picture, where we're going, what we're going to do. And then you also need a container, someone who's going to clean that up, keep it, you know, okay, what can we do, whether it's financially or, you know, capability wise or what have you, that every organization needs that. But it's when you're looking at a container, you can have someone that is going to kind of rope you in, but you can't have someone that does it in a negative way. Yeah. You know, that's so where critical. You have to put the gauntlet down and, you know, you can have someone that guides you and helps you to make, you know, those tough decisions or keeps you, you know, in line. I'm obviously very much an expander, you know, so those around me that are containers, you know, now, especially like right now, just incredible mental attitude and capacity that we can all make incredible decisions and some of them hard decisions together, but we're not in a pit. A mental pit together. It's okay, we're going to make these decisions because this is what needs to happen. And now we're going to up level. We're going to, you know, go to our next level. We're all in this together and we're now going to uplift. The next day is a new day and let's tackle it together.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the, I can map myself onto what you're saying because when I'm surrounded by, good people and, you know, we've gotten better at weeding out the negativity over the years. You know, it just sometimes you don't even realize it's there or the cancers.
Yes.
But I can walk into any one of the locations of our salons and no matter what my mindset I'm in, you know, this morning I saw Brenda first thing and she had this big smile and she asked, how was your trip? And she just her warm hello affected it impacted me in such a positive way. And when I'm surrounded by people like that who just aren't, it's summer and it's June and, you know, just her positivity or that moment can And then when she may not be there, I'm there for her. But the way the chemistry of the group is, they lift each other up, because not everybody walks in with it's not the best day of everyone's life. You know, they have problems with their kids' daycare, or they don't have a camp for them, and there's a breakdown with the car and whatever's going on. But when you're surrounded by the right people, it makes a huge difference in the mindset and where you can take the day and the difference that you can make.
Without a doubt. Well, and you're also blessed. I'm kind of biased because I've been going to your location here next to me at Bayfront for I think maybe like 13 years.
Thank God.
I think.
God bless you. Thank you.
I love it there. You know, and I've been blessed. I have kind of circled through people as they've evolved over the years, but loyalty is one of the things that I'm most proud of as a person. It's bitten me in the butt sometimes, but definitely not with your location. So, but you have such incredible people there. And they've been very, very loyal. And, I even write in my book about one of them,
which is
actually.
Really cool. That was special.
Yes. Who, just always, it's like and she just does the best that she can possibly do at her role and stands out as, she can shampoo your hair and turn it into a spiritual experience.
Yes, true.
I mean, truly. And little Miss Maria, and it's a different thing. That's a true example to me of someone who embodies joy and enthusiasm for what she does.
Oh, so much so.
It doesn't matter the role.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the role. Yeah. But she turns it into an experience that you have so many great people that, embody that same capability. Yeah. But there's a unique edge that she puts forth that... there's a true joy about it.
Yes.
And you feel that.
Yeah.
And, that makes, me and probably many others, draw her out. And, did we get Maria today?
Yeah. Yes, I know.
That's like one of my,
special thing.
I'm sorry, I can't come in for my hair today because that's not a Maria day.
It happens so many times, which is such an awesome thing. Yeah. Because she's genuinely, authentically concerned about everybody who she meets every single day. She just never turns that off. It's always so on her.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. You feel that. And when you're authentically living in your truth and, who you are, people connect with that so much, and I mean, she's my girl. That's what I look for. And to think that an experience like that, and I'll tell you, there's a spot, that I go to get, vegetables sometimes, which I do write actually about in the book as well. And, another experience like that is she works at the counter and, checkout, works at checkout at this special spot. And does her job unlike anyone, does her job unlike anyone I've ever seen before. Just takes such great care and puts everything in and double ties the bags and double bags them, when you've got tomatoes, because she's concerned that they're going to roll all over your back seat of your car, It's just that enthusiastic energy for their role, no matter what it would be. And, how can you not connect with that and respect that and admire that? Because it doesn't matter what we're doing in the world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're the richest person in the world or not. It's how are you leaving an impression with whatever you're doing at the time? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. How'd you get to be like this? Your mom. You talked about your mom and the journal that she left. I think she left you the journal.
Oh boy.
How would your mother have described you?
Well, actually, in the journal that she left. Boy, I feel like I'm sitting with Barbara Walters and trying to to get tears out. The journal that she left, she actually said in the journal that she said that the thing that she was most proud of was my giving heart. And, she always said no characteristic in life could be more important than a giving heart, a good and giving heart. And geez, Robert, I believe that in every fiber of my being. And I do believe that it's one of those things that has bit me in the butt, much like my loyalty, over the years, to the point of, when I care about someone, an employee who really aren't employees to me, but it doesn't matter. I care hard and with all I've got.
Yeah.
And, there's dynamics that, we all get hurt in life. And I've had so many of those. And I think I've just learned now that, Tiff, you can't control other people. You can't control how they act and react to you. When I give and care a lot, and people are not used to that, they question it and they can look at it as inauthentic, when in fact it's quite the opposite. It's just me. It's just who I am. Yeah. But, we are in a cynical world now. And a lot of people don't know how to approach that. And I'll tell you, really, the greatest challenge that I've seen is when you give and care a lot and people are in your world for a lengthy period of time and they get very used to that. And then for whatever reason, they're removed from that dynamic. They don't know how to take that. And because I don't think that they quite recognized, and then it becomes...
They didn't even know it was that way. They just became the way that it was.
Right.
They weren't even aware of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when it's removed, then all of a sudden to justify and quantify their stance, they have to, think negatively about you or the organization or whatever to make themselves feel better. Yep. And, they can posse, with like-kind dynamics or what have you. And, it's all when, in fact, you're the commonality, to that. Yeah. I'm crying. Jeez Louise. This is not how I planned. Hopefully it's okay.
Oh, it's beautiful. No, it's great. You did that to me with your book, you touched the soul and touched the heart in that way, because of your authenticity, and that's just so special when you're authentic, when your people are real and authentic, and tears or whatever they are, happiness and joy. It just that's what people get attracted to. That's why you have a lot of loyalty around you. That's why you create the web that you have around you. Is that there's people are attracted to that. That's a gift, that the blessing that you have. That,
well, thank you.
It's something.
Thank you. I think we can all learn from our the bad things that happen. I believe that, or I believe it in every fiber of my being, because I'm true testament to it, is that it's always just such a huge setup for a major comeback or something really great on the other sad. And, I've learned and I've given myself every time I have a challenging day or something really, bad happens, I always give myself that day to feel sorry for myself. And then I have trained myself to get up the next day just ready to approach it, kind of putting aside the things that have happened and, try to approach it fresher. Yeah. But I will say that training yourself to get up in the morning and not be focused on the distraction of the phones and all of that is really what will transform the course of your day. So, being in gratitude, first and foremost, taking time to clear your mind and your brain and not get caught up in, I went to school for broadcasting. And, one of the things that they teach you, although I got sidetracked in life, but always the way, right? But one of the things that has always stuck in my head is that infamous line, if it bleeds, it leads. And that's the approach to broadcasting. And I feel like it's the same thing with social media. What gets put out there, it's always that if it bleeds, it leads. Whatever is going to draw and get people to read it or react. And, and it's typically something negative.
Yes.
And,
right. It is,
so if you start your day in that, think about that. If you're starting your day just looking at things that are bleeding, that's how you're leading your day.
Yeah.
You have an ability to choose and lead it in an entirely different way and not let it take control of you. Yeah. And that's what's happening right now. I see that in the majority of people, that we're encountering on the day to day.
Of course. Yeah.
So what a blessing and a gift it is to know and have the ability to turn yourself and your mental capacity around and create your day. Yeah. You're always going to have things coming at you, but boy, do you react to them differently when you have taken the time to focus on you first, to focus in on gratitude, and then just find the little joys. Think about this. This is like one of my favorite things to do. I still go out to Ave, pretty much every weekend I'll go out. I take my little dog out in her stroller because she's got little legs. She can only walk so far.
She's got a stroller.
And she loves, so she'll walk as far as she can go. And then I put her in the we stroll and we got this whole routine. But speaking of joy, it brings her so much joy. But what I do is I leave my phone in the car. And we go walk those 3 miles. And all I do is some days I'll just focus in on just gratitude. I just walk thinking of all the things that I'm grateful for, during that entire walk. But then there's some days that I just go around spotting like the little joys, just walking and seeing, the other day, somebody had drawn like little smile faces on the walkway, all the little chalk smile faces on the walkway. You'll see little white feathers. You'll see birds going around. You'll see this alligator, laying on the side of the hill and, eyeballing some, suspect that it's going after. You see all these things that we don't normally notice anymore because we're so distracted and you're looking at your phone. Yeah. And to just take those times to find the little joys, the rabbits chasing each other on the side of the walk path, hearing the little birds, obviously baby birds in a nest in a tree chirping like crazy, things that we just don't even notice anymore. And I can guarantee to you, your mindset is entirely different by the time you're done. When you're just taking those observations. And it's just, we have lost sight of all that. And, we have to take that time. When we were young, we're both of the same age range, but when we were young, think about it. Summer break, you got up early in the morning. We were outside all day playing, using our imaginations, creating things. We did not come in till dark.
Yeah. Yep.
Really. Yeah. Dark. We didn't even have street lights where I grew up, so it was dark. That's when you had to be home. Yeah. And you just don't see any of that anymore. And we just used our imaginations to create all day,
Yeah.
You'd spend time fishing in the little pond where, it didn't matter what it was. We used to go catch little turtles. We had a little pond way back behind our house. We'd go catch little turtles, and then we probably, somewhere there's these giant turtles that have little nail polish on their shells, because that's what we would do. We would put little nail polish so we knew which was which, But there's no imagination anymore. My grandmother, which I write about in the book, she was brilliant woman. So creative without even really realizing it, to keep us busy when we would be over there. In the fall, she would give us this. I mean, just think about how brilliant this is. She would go get her 3 rakes out of the garage. All of them had different color sticks. She would let us, myself, my sister, and my cousin, Melody, she would have us pick a color, and she would make that fun. Okay, girls, you get to pick a color. She would say, okay, girls, you get to pick a color. And so we would fight over which color, rake we would get. We'd get our colors, and she'd say, okay, here's what we're going to do. She'd have a stopwatch. I'm going to give you each quadrants of the backyard. Tiff, you get here. Monica, you get here. Melody, you get here. I'm going to time you. You have 30 minutes to take all the leaves in your quadrant and rake them up to make an imaginary house. So you make an imaginary house, you build imaginary furniture out of these leaves, and you have 30 minutes to do it. And then I'm going to judge them, and the winner is going to get a treat. So we would feverishly rake up all these leaves, and we'd make an outline of little houses, and nobody could visualize this, but right? But we'd make sofas and chairs and tables, and then she would tour each of our houses, and we'd have to tell her, this is our kitchen, this is the living room, this is the bedroom, and see, Grandma, see, this is the bed, and look, Grandma, I made pillows out of, these big green leaves that, and so she'd have us use our imaginations, and then she would judge us, and she'd give us, a little bowl of Oreos or whatever, to the winner. But then what she would do is she'd wait to give us the treats until the end, because then she would time us to rake, whoever could rake and make the most bags to collect the leaves, would win. But we'd all ultimately win in the end, because she'd give us all. But she would time us to do that. And what did she do? She got her entire yard raked without us being none the wiser, and everything bagged, in the quickest of time. Yeah. So, she was always, her front yard would be loaded with dandelions. Back then they didn't weed the same way. Yeah. She'd give us each a cute bucket. We could pick the color of our, sand bucket, and she'd give us quadrants and would time us to go pick the pretty yellow flowers out of her yard, and then she'd count them. Whoever got the most dandelions would win. Yeah. And she'd get us to weed her yard.
Isn't that awesome? Those are some of your best memories too. And
yes.
she was getting work done.
It was brilliant. We would get candy, and it was fun, and we'd move so fast, and we could bend over better than but just think about that from a business perspective now. There's always multiple ways to skin a cat. You can create something and fill a void with energy and enthusiasm in a way that nobody else has. So it's the same thing as what my grandmother was doing. You can do that with business too, in so many different ways. And people tend to just do, okay, here's another example I'll give you. Think about, for us here in Naples, let's talk from our example. We have the Christmas parade. We have parades. Every downtown area has parades. And what do? Businesses from around that area and, high school bands and what have you. But more importantly, the businesses. They sign up and they put together a float. They may decorate a car or truck. Maybe they throw an inflatable in the back and, toss out the same candy that you get from Sam's Club. Everybody does the same thing, right? And you go through those parades and you're excited to participate. You know, it gives a little energy and enthusiasm to maybe the office to participate or not. Maybe they're like, oh, we got to do this again. Yeah. But here's the thing that people don't think of and companies don't think of. It's one thing to participate and support the town, but it's an opportunity. You have 10, 12,000 people captive in that one little stretch of that parade route. You have the opportunity to do something remarkable so that they remember you over and above every other float there. Because what's the goal? The ultimate goal is you're participating because you're a business. Yes, you want to support the town, but what else? You want the town to support you. So that's why you're participating. But they can't support you if they don't remember you.
Yeah.
90% of the floats you probably don't remember from the Christmas parade. But if you do something remarkable that's different than what everybody else is doing, for us, we've been blessed that, our floats have won 8 years out of the last 10 that we've participated, and we're so thankful because we use our imaginations and we really try to come up with something that's outstanding, that's remarkable. The last year we did it for the Grove, a new construction development, because we were kind of between brands. We weren't totally merged with Serhant at that point. So do we go red? Do we go blue? We didn't know. So we just did the Grove. We passed out thousands and thousands and thousands of oranges around the parade route. Well, that's remarkable. Everybody was like, what? You're giving out oranges? Yeah. They were clawing over themselves to get the oranges. The year before, we gave out 10,000 red glow sticks. We became like the biggest boy band out there. Everybody, we had to have security because we did that a few years in a row. And we had to hire off-duty police to walk with our float because we get mobbed, legit mobbed by all these kids and all of that stuff. And then people are calling afterwards, do you have any of those left? One child got one, the other didn't. So then we've got people coming into our office for a few weeks afterwards,
Awesome.
So it's creating things that are ultimately remarkable, that are different, that are imaginative, using your imagination, filling voids, doing things that make you and your company stand out over and above all the others.
Yeah, interrupting the ordinary. Yeah,
interrupting the ordinary. We're status quo. It's just not enough anymore.
No.
It's not. So we're blessed to live in like the best area.
Yeah.
And we're safe here. We've got sunshine 95% of the time, which helps uplift you. Yeah. It's, we've been voted the best of the best for about everything from best beaches to healthiest town to live to, we have nothing to complain about here.
No, we really don't.
No, we don't.
We don't.
No, we don't.
Nothing.
It's a blessing and a gift. All we have to do, all we have to do is catapult off of that.
Yeah.
We have the most solid foundation of probably anywhere in the country.
Oh, no question. Yeah. It's so
let's just build our businesses off of that.
Special.
Happy, joyful. We're all going to have struggles. We're all going to have challenges.
Yeah.
But the difference is we don't have to approach them that way.
Yeah.
We can choose.
Just like when you went in your cabinet and found the little Debbies that you could sell.
Yeah. Oops. I got myself into a lot of trouble. I was grounded for life.
I love that. But interrupting the ordinary, there you were again.
Yeah.
That was a great story.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't enough to have just a lemonade stand. I had to sell Kool-Aid.
Exactly.
And peddle my mom's little Debbie snack cakes. Yeah.
That's great. I love that story.
I was grounded for life many times over the course of my one time. I'll give you this quick story. My area, where we grew up, it was an allotment is what they called kind of little communities. Although we were very far apart from all the homes, it was called an allotment. And our area was doing an allotment, like yard sale. And I wanted to participate so desperately. But my mom was, she had to work a full-time job, and she was kind of overwhelmed and said, no, don't want to do it, too much work. So I took it upon myself to every day when she left for work, it was during the summer, I started going around the house and collecting saleable items, including going through her closet and pulling like suits and things that she would wear for work that I didn't care for. And I started compiling those and putting them under the steps to our basement downstairs, and started like pulling all of our folding tables and snack trays and putting it all down there. And then I started pricing everything. So I worked for like almost 2 weeks. On this little yard sale, because I was going to sneak and have it, because she would have to leave for work at 7:00 in the morning. So I thought the yard sale started at 8. Perfect. So the day of the yard sale comes, and I would save change because she'd have me run in the grocery store and pick up a few things, and I'd sneak the change and hold on to it leading up to the yard sale. So I would have change to start. And the day of the yard sale comes, I'll never forget it. I was up early. I'm dressed. I'm under the covers, fully dressed. I had all my wares under the stairs. She leaves for work. I open the garage door. I set up our tables. I had everything priced and ready to go. Oh my gosh. And I was open for business. I had my change. I had it wrapped in a belt around my waist, little fanny pack. I was ready to go. That was the one day that she decides to come home for lunch. And her work, great. She was in downtown Akron, would never come home for lunch because we were like 20 minutes away. Somehow she suspected. Oh, wow. I will never forget that day as long as I live. She pulls in the driveway. We have had a gravel driveway. That sound of the car pulling in the gravel as I'm seeing her. And I had customers when she pulled up, and 2 people were negotiating these 6 little Hummel grandfather clocks that I'd put in the yard sale and put a quarter. Okay. So gosh. You can only, to me, I thought they were ugly. We need to sell these. I was just trying to make money for school clothes. That's all I was trying to do. And so she pulls up as they're negotiating with me on the Hummel clocks. And she sees this and goes in the house. I'll never forget. And she's standing in the doorway to the garage, and you get the Tiffany Marie.
That's the trouble.
Get in here. Yeah. Every time the middle name's out.
Yeah, you're done.
No good was going to come of this. And I was in so much trouble. She made me stop the negotiation. Luckily, I couldn't find the key to wind them, so the people decided that they didn't want them because they needed a little winding. So she put the garage door down, closed my little yard sale, made me take her around the house and show her the things that I had sold, what was missing. And unfortunately, I had sold several of her work suits. So, yeah.
Fortunately for you, but unfortunately for her.
Oh my gosh. Grounded for life. It happens so many times. So, my imagination got me into a lot of trouble. But
yeah.
What are you going to do?
But it followed you and it worked. It actually has helped you throughout. Yeah.
I have to believe she's looking down on me now saying, all right, I'll give you a little bit of a reprieve.
Yeah. I love that you picked out the suits you didn't like for her that you wanted to sell.
Yeah, well, I figured.
You're doing her a favor.
I was doing her a solid, yeah.
All right, a couple just for fun ones here. If life was a movie, what would be the opening soundtrack for you?
Oh, without a doubt, Roar by Katy Perry. Yeah. Because the start of the song starts out, I used to bite my tongue and hold my breath, scared to cross the boat and make a mess. And so I sit quietly, I'll be politely, and that's how it starts out. And I feel like so much of my life was that way, just trying not to make waves, just kind of trying to fit in and find my way. I was a little girl growing up without a dad at a time that wasn't common. And I didn't want to stand out anymore than I already did. I didn't want to be different.
Yeah.
I wanted to blend in. And so that song, has always, it's kind of my fight song.
Yeah.
So now, it's
I
got the eye of the tiger and darn it, I'm just going to do this and roar to the best of my ability.
Yeah, I get it, totally.
And so
that's yours. I could see it.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
A historical figure. I would say, interestingly, probably one of them would be Zig Ziglar. Truly.
Yeah.
He did play a pivotal role in my life and just in his teachings and things. I think if I could choose another one, if I could choose two, a historical figure, I would choose Wayne Dyer.
Yes.
I would love to spend time with Wayne Dyer. I there's a list for sure, but those are two top of mind.
Yeah. Love those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Books or podcasts that you're currently into?
Oh, well, one of my absolute favorite podcasts is How I Built This by Guy Raz. Fantastic. For any entrepreneurs out there, it is the best one and has gotten me through some dark times because every entrepreneur has challenges and incredible challenges on their journey. And that, listening to him speak to some of the most successful and prolific businesses of our time, and to know the struggles that they went through and the challenges that they went through, just give you a little bit of hope. And it just gives you a little motivation to just keep going.
Yeah.
One more day.
Yeah.
So that for sure would be one of them. For a book, I've got a lot. My absolute go-to favorite is, it was Use What You've Got and Other Business Lessons I Learned from My Mom by Barbara Corcoran, because that transformed my life and that caused me to do something that I've never done before. And that was reach out to her after I read the book.
Yeah.
And that was 20 some years ago.
Wow.
So that was before, she was ever on Shark Tank. And her book just resonated with my brain. I reached out to her and that's what started the journey. Just, you never know, if you don't take the risk. I'd never emailed somebody like that before.
Right.
And look at where it got me. And not only that, she worked on the book with a gentleman by the name of Bruce Littlefield. And here I am 20 some years later. And that's who I collaborated with my book on. I mean, who could have ever dreamt or thought that that would even be the case?
Yeah,
and,
wow.
I remember reaching out to both of them after I read the book because it just had such a huge impact on me. The book has since been modified and with new things added and updated. So it's now called Shark Tales.
Oh.
So if anyone's looking for it now, that's what it's called, Shark Tales.
Okay, good. Well, I'll have to get the revised version.
Yeah, cool. You'll have to...
Evolved version, I guess is what it would be.
Yeah, it's really very, very good. Very good. So,
what legacy or impact do you hope to leave behind through your work and contributions?
The legacy would be, I would love for it to be that she loved hard and with all she had.
Well, that's beautiful. Wow.
Everything.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that one hit. I get it. Totally. Yeah. You're doing that.
Thank you.
What's your coffee order?
I'm sorry?
What's your coffee order?
I will tell you. I drive through Dunkin', a medium hot coffee with sweetened French vanilla and cream. That's
Dunkin' girl.
Yes, I'm a
Okay.
Dunkin' girl. I am not a Starbucks girl.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've never, as a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever been to a Starbucks.
Is that right? Really?
Yeah.
All Dunkin'.
All
Is
Dunkin'.
Was that an Ohio thing, or is that just something that just...
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I connect more with the orange and pink than I do with the green.
What's your guilty pleasure? Little Debbie's or something else? What's your...
Food-wise or just in general?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I am a pizza girl, 3,000%. I am a pizza addict. That cures whatever ails me. If I'm having a rough day, and Fridays, that's my pizza day.
Yeah. You give yourself that grace. Pizza,
it's my reward for getting through the week. I get a pizza. I'm very simple in that, the things that bring me joy are so simple, so simple. And that's what I find the most joy from, are just the little pleasures. And pizza happens to be one of those.
Yeah, that's a celebratory one. I like that.
Yeah. I have no desire for, you hear people talk about, I want to get, such and such purse, or, I want to get such and such car, or whatever. I have no desire for any of that. Yeah. I don't aspire to anything like that. Yeah. I don't look at it from that perspective. Right. I just aspire for freedom in my life, freedom of choice and ability and capability to do what I want, you know? Yeah. I desire for just peace in my head and heart and just love, the ability to give it and the ability to receive it without judgment, without expectation, just authentically.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Last question.
Yes.
What do you love about your life?
Moments like this, moments that I know that I have been given special gifts for whatever reason. And the ability and opportunity to be able to share them with even just one person. That's what I love. Yeah. Yeah.
What a gift. What a blessing. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, you're not supposed to make me cry. My gosh. I didn't know that this was going to be.
I can't thank you enough for sharing your story.
For being thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
There's a lot about you. From the lessons from your mom, from your incredible creativity in the business.
Thank you.
From your deep belief and hope and connection. Your journey shows us that growth requires courage, resilience, and a touch of sparkle. From pickleball paddles to candy jars to partnerships with visionaries like Ryan. If you're listening and you want to learn more about Tiffany's approach to life and business, do check out that book. It's awesome. The INth Degree. And if you're feeling inspired today, remember Tiffany's mantra: never lose hope, and to trust always in faith, not fear, in all ways.
Always.
Always.
In all ways.
Yeah.
Always.
Always. Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you, neighbor, for sharing this time. It really means the world to me. Yeah. I did not know that I would be emotional, so not what was expected, but appreciated that we could share something so brave and authentic.
Yeah, real, authentic. Yeah. It's something that has been the genesis of me doing this podcast, is getting the good souls in our community. Because like you said, what people are drawn to what's negative, what's wrong, what's the catastrophes in life, and not enough is put on the good and the good souls in our world. So you're one of those good souls who we're blessed to have in our community. So love it. Thank you again.
Well, back at you.
Yeah, awesome.
Back at you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's getting busy. Open happiness. Take a sip, and I take a second to taste it. And I'm really starting to think that